Here today, streaming Cannon's Courchevel. Courchevel high-low, I should say. Just as a reminder, Courchevel is a 5-card variant of Omaha, where you also get one free card on the flop before you make any pre-flop betting decisions other than putting blind bets in. So you get crap loads of information. That said, it is equally a game where even more so than PLO or 5-card PLO, if the nuts are there, the nuts are being played. It's all there's I mean with everybody out there with 5 cards already having seen 1 card on the flop. There's really no excuse for the nuts not to be out there if you know if that's what you're looking at. So when the hearts come in on the river, yeah, there is somebody playing. There's somebody playing the nut hard hand almost certainly. Um, you know, those sorts of things are almost certainly true in these games. We've just flopped 2 pair. Um, Not the strongest hand in the world in Courchevel high-low, especially when actually we flopped 3 pair to be perfectly frank, and especially when they're all 3 of the cards we would play for low. It's just this is just evolving into a not a terrible hand. Because with the 5 there, we've got crap loads of straight draws going on. Actually, we still have crap loads of like wrap straight draws, and none of them hit. But we did hit 3 of a kind 7s, so we've got actually full house 7s full of 8s. If that's what we choose to play, which is what we do, we're not going to win any low pots on this, but we're going to throw a pot bet out there because if people fold, we're going to take a pot with low that we shouldn't necessarily take, and that's what they did. So we don't know. Maybe nobody else had a low either that they could play. Seems unlikely, but it seems like we took a pot there that we might have only took half of it had we just checked through on that one. Oh, I think my title is wrong at the top of the stream. Let me just correct that. Yes, we still are playing the Tyson's 5. That's not the this is not the Tyson's 5 card PLO. This is the we've just flopped a full house. We're doing good on the full houses so far since we started streaming here. That's nice. Always nice to get always nice to hit boats when we stream. So I think we're going to be putting money into this pot. And this is also episode 18. Wow, we've done 18 episodes. Right, so once again, we're in a spot where we don't have a low that we can play, but we've got a wicked high, and we're going to put money in just to see if we can steal that high instead of splitting with people. We couldn't do it that time, but we've sort of got a bet there just for that sake. Righty, we got another decent. This is a really good 2-3-4-5. Obviously, is a great hand for straight possibilities. It's a great low hand for building lows out of. With the 10 on board, of course, we got less likelihood of having lows happening, but that doesn't really stop us from wanting to put money into this pot. Probably betting out here, actually, now that thinking about the dynamics of this table, Istrel and the fact that there's people sitting out, Istrel is playing every single hand. So there is no low, so all of our low possibilities are toast, and all of our lovely straight possibilities down here at the bottom are toast. We can do really nothing with our pair of 9s with a hand like this. Basically, our beautiful looking, wonderful Courchevel high-low hand developed into a steaming pile of dog poo on the flop. So we're just going to fold that out because it is no longer of very much of value. I'm going to call through here with the 4 on board. All my straights are still live and so on, so I think it's definitely worth. We got a really strong low hand here. Obviously, the deuce 4 is one that it takes over for us. No, sorry, the deuce 5 rather than the 5-6, but that's really the only hand that's beating us for low right now. And we've also got some really good, obviously, wrap straight possibilities here, none of which have come through on the turn, and the flush has come through, which basically dominates all of our straights if they do come through. But I think I'm still reasonably happy thinking that the 5-6 could be a good hand still for low. So I think I'm going to stay in this. I'm going to stay in this pot. I am now much happier that the 5-6 is a good hand for low. I'm also much happier that, well, I mean, I've hit my straight, so if it's only if someone's playing spades that we're really going to have a situation where I'm pretty sure I'm taking low on this pot, or at least splitting it. Yeah, splitting it. So we paired the 4 on the flop, but we haven't got any of the suits. Our low is damaged by pairing the 4, so we're just going to fold out of this pre-flop. Just a reminder of what Courchevel high-low is. It is a 5-card Omaha variant with the added bonus of seeing a free card on the flop before you make any pre-flop betting decisions. So it is a very wild game, wild like PLO players can't imagine. There's just all sorts of craziness and action and nutty hands developing all over the place. It's a ton of fun. I min cashed in the Micro Millions version of this a couple of weeks ago as one of my early streams, so you might want to go back and have a look at that. I quite enjoy it. It's the sort of game where you can easily go broke. It's a pot limit game, so it's the sort of game where you can easily go broke in 1 or 2 or 3 hands, even when things seem to be going wonderfully for you. So it really is one of those. It's like pot limit Omaha in that sense. It's very swingy in the sense that you're when things are going well, they're going great, and when they're not going well, you're walking away because you've just gone out on a crazy hand where you got your money in with way the nuts, and another card came and you no longer had anything even close to the nuts. So we've got the nut flush draw for high. There is a possibility of a low, but if there is a low, we also have the nut low. So we are very much liking our hand, and we're putting money into this pot. We're putting money into this pot for a shorten. We've just hit the nut low. We did not hit our high, so for high we are playing a pair of 7s, which is probably not going to win us any money, but I think we still want to throw money into this pot. We managed to pull an extra 750 chips out of Israel by betting that, because he would have checked behind us almost certainly, and by him calling, we Stalker and I just split his 1,500 chips. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you bet your hands. Especially when you're three-handed in this game. If we're two-handed, of course, it wouldn't matter. I would bet, he would call, we would split the chips, and it would be, a wash. So yes, of course, it came all diamonds. Yeah, I thought we were going to get him to fold. Thought we were going to get him to fold with that bet, with the way he'd been checking. That ace doesn't bother us too much, because if somebody was playing the ace deuce or ace three, it does bother them, but it doesn't bother us because we're playing the ace of deuce three, which means we're still playing the nut low with our deuce three, so we're perfectly fine with that ace coming on the flop in that situation. I don't really think this is one where I need to continue playing, frankly. It's just not strong enough on any situation, and this is one of the astronomer free rolls, of course, which don't actually play for direct money in this one, but we play for a ticket into weekly round two. They're called. They play on the weekend. There's a Saturday morning HoldEm game that runs every week, and then Sunday at noon Mountain Time there's another kind of poker that runs every week, both of which have a $2,000 prize pool and are ticket only for people who have won tickets in these events. And they're a lot of fun to play. We played the no limit deuce to seven single draw weekly round two just this past Sunday, and min cashed in it for $1.10. So $1.10 free money. Never complain for free money, as I like to say. Hashtag infinite ROI. Money on a free roll. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to play these and to play the weekly round twos as well, and it's a great chance to get an opportunity to play games like No Limit Deuce 7 Single Draw for money without actually putting any of your own money up if you don't feel hugely comfortable with the game. Great way to learn the games, great way to get in and get your feet wet with them. So we've got a pair of aces here as well as a crap low draw. There could easily be a 4-7 or a 4 deuce straight that just came in here by Stalker betting his pot betting here. I really don't think we need to continue with this hand for any reason. It's, I think, just probably burning chips if we do that. Deuce 4, told ya. In a 5-card game like this, it's just so likely that someone's going to have that hand or the 4-7 hand, but especially in a high-low game, especially that deuce 4 hand. I mean, um, never discount the idea of if the board is looking like that and saying, well, no, nobody's going to play the deuce 4. Well, people play the deuce 4s in a low game all the time, in a high-low game all the time, simply because they hit straights and they hit good low hands on a regular basis. So, of course, yes, that's going to be there. The 4-7, not quite so much. There's not as much reason for somebody to look at a 7-4 in their hand and go, I'm going to play those two cards for their straight possibilities, and I'm going to play those two cards for their low possibilities. In neither of those cases is that a really high odds thing to do. But in the case of the 4 deuce, it's a much better proposition to be talking about that. So yeah, it's definitely worth that one's almost certainly going to be there. Right, so we're on the ace 3, which is another one of those really nice starting low hands. We've got all sorts of hearts, which means we don't necessarily mean that hearts are going to come along, and we've seen the spade come up on the flop. The flop doesn't really do much for us. We're not thrilled with that, obviously, seeing all the spades come out. What it might do is get people competing for high with a spade to bloat the pot and letting us go for low if a low comes in after this. We're not really valuing our pair of sevens in any sense in this current situation. And now that there's no low possibility in this hand, we're not really valuing our hand much at all. Even the gut shot to Broadway up here. With all these spades, it seems unlikely to me that there's... Now, the fact that everybody's checking, though, and the fact there's no 5 spades on the board, there are probably parallel universes where my pair of sevens is good here. You know, out of the infinite number of possible parallel universes. There's probably 7 or 8 where my pair of sevens is good here, but I don't think we live in one of those parallel universes at the moment. Yes, as I figured, there was almost certainly going to be somebody who had at least 2 spades in their hand. And that was indeed the case. We do not, in fact, live in the parallel universe, one of the parallel universes where my pair of sevens would have been good. As I suspected, the laws of this physical universe simply do not allow a pair of sevens to be good in that situation. However, there may well be other universes where a pair of sevens is very likely to be good in that situation. It's hard to know. Cosmology and metaphysics may be a bit beyond the scope of anything but HoldEm, so I'll get back to the poker here, folks. Got a pair of sevens. The 6 card gives us possibilities with low. They're crappy lows with the 7-8 ace in there. We do have the nut spades, so we're going to certainly see a flop, I think, in this situation. So you've got the nut spade draw. There are low draws out there for people. The ace deuce is still good. Ace fours, ace fives, all the sorts of deuce 4, deuce 5 is still live. But nonetheless, I think our spade draw is happy enough for us to want to put pots into this chip. Yes, we want to put pots into this chip. I think, folks, we want to put lots and lots and lots of pots into this chip. This is a place where we want to put chips into the pot because we want to get people who are drawing for low and don't want to actually put money into draw out. Those people just hit and are splitting with us. So I think we can probably at this point check behind so as not to bloat the pot and so as to give him a chance to bet at this if the spade comes to try to bluff at it. The queen is not a friendly card for us. It basically means we're still playing a pair of sevens. Now, when he checks to us, that tells us that he's probably not playing a huge hand. Now, he may be looking to check raise us, but we're not really thinking. I think we're going to check behind all the time here. We've got a certain amount of showdown value, I think, with our, yeah. So we're taking it with our pair of sevens. In that universe, in that situation, in this universe, our pair of sevens was good. Ace deuce 5-6. I'm obviously definitely seeing a flop with this. Now we've paired the ace, so that does degrade our low hand somewhat. Our ace deuce low somewhat. We've now got aces and sevens with a 7-5 deuce ace low draw. So I think we're probably staying in. We're not really wanting to bloat the pot in any sense, but I think we're definitely wanting to probably check call at the very least. So there's no lows come in. We've got aces and jacks. Do we want to value bet this pot? I don't really think we get called by much worse, frankly. I don't think we fold much better, so I don't really, yeah, I'm not sure that there was any value to be gotten on a value bet there, frankly. Good evening, Hammer. Good to see you. Good to see you here. We are playing Courchevel. Got some people all in on this table. Deuce 3, I think, is strong enough to play with the 2 suits. Oh, and now we've hit 2 pair. We had the pair of 10s on the flop, and we've hit 2 pairs. So I think we're happy to put chips into this pot. We've hit 3 pair now, which of course does us no good whatsoever. Nonetheless, we are going to continue putting chips into this pot, I think. That's also killed our bad low our low possibilities. Now that does There's no lows. We are basically putting as many chips into this pot as we can because we've just rivered the nuts basically. Oh, we didn't river the nuts. Oh well, that was a quick one. It's going to happen from time to time, and I suppose I should have looked closer at that and seen that rivering the deuce is full there doesn't necessarily give me anything of value. Let me have a look at what else is playing at the moment, and we'll see if we can get into anything else uh, fairly quickly. Ah, there we go. Alrighty, so what we've done is we've now changed to $2.20 8 game. So I'm not going to quit streaming just because I busted just because I happened to bust the Courchevel high-low in a rather dramatic fashion. Um, but instead, we've decided to bring up our 8 game and play some of that. I'm just going to get the lobby up on screen for us. Oh, this software does get a little annoying at times with the way it does things. Well, let's try that one more time. Let's add a lobby. Alrighty. Uh-huh. We have a lobby. Cool. Alrighty, so we're in the 8 game. This is a $2.20. Say $2.20 8 game. This is 2.20 8 game. And let's change here as well. Alrighty, so this is 220 space. Eight game. Yeah, well, That's the way it goes. It absolutely had nothing to do with you that I busted. That was me way overvaluing my deuces full of um, my deuces full of nines when I should have known that my deuces full of nines were a steaming pile of dog poo on that board. Just got excited because I had a full house, you know. But that's okay because we moved on and we're playing we are playing an 8 game, which is always fun because the 8 games are a bunch of different games together, and we can stretch our brain a little bit as we have to flip from game to game. We are in the limit Omaha high-low portion of the 8 game now, with not very much equity in this pot really. We got no spades. I guess we've sort of got some straight possibilities with 7-8 on the fives. We don't really have a great low draw here, so I think we're just getting out of the pot. The only reason we were in here is because we were in the big blind and it got checked to us. So I don't think we really need to. Don't think we really need to be involved here too much. I think likewise with a hand like this, the two diamonds obviously make it a decent hand to play from a high Omaha perspective, but the 8-4 is not really going to win us too many pots down low. So I don't think it really needs to be something that we need to think we're putting a bunch of value into, frankly. This one is a bit more value. Two suits with two suits with the deuce four. Of course, the low didn't come in, but both our suits are still live, so we're just going to check through on this. Next home game, Sunday again. We're going to do it every Sunday. I think 1500 Mountain Time, so the same time it started last time, is looking like a good time for most people involved. So I think that's what we're going to keep at. That's next week is already in there. Um, So you can go search for anything but HoldEm in the PokerStars lobby. This week it's not L-Ron66. Search for anything but HoldEm. And the password is L-Ron66. Well, thank you very much, Hammer. The ace-5 is definitely good low possibilities. We got the diamonds here. We got the ace-10 queen for high Broadway possibilities. But again, in a high-low game, the low hand is the one that truly, truly, truly matters. So in that sort of a scenario, my high is going to get dominated a lot, and that means I'm giving up half the pot a lot of the time, and that's never going to be a good way to work out your poker. I played a really short session of 5-card PLO yesterday. It was about 23 minutes long before I busted in glorious fashion. So that was a ton of fun. You might want to go back and watch that if you want 20 odd minutes of entertainment. This one's more of a friendly hand, something that I think I'm actually going to raise with. I haven't been playing a ton of pots. I've been folding a lot, so I think people are going to be a little bit more cautious of my raises. Of course, crap loads of straight possibilities in this, and the low's not bad either, depending on what comes up. So we flopped the bottom end of a open-ended straight draw. Um, the 3 or the 8 give us straights, and actually pretty much anything else in there other than the 6 or the 7 give it to us as well, because of the rest of the wrap that we have going there. So we're definitely involved in this hand, I think, without doubt. The 3 also gives us the 4-5-6 3-4 4-5 3 4-5 6 7 straight. But the clubs have also come through, so our high hand isn't as strong as it was before. I'm still relatively happy with our low. 3-1 is obviously, or 3 ace is obviously ahead of us, but that's the only low hand that's ahead of us. So I think at this point we actually want to value our low hand fairly strongly and maybe hope that he's not against, that we're not against clubs. We probably don't need to go that far. So just, I think probably just calling here is fine, frankly. We could be losing on both ends. We might actually be losing our, yeah, like I said, we could actually be losing on both ends. You could have late regged this 8-game tourney, Hammer, but it's already, it was only 10 minutes late reg, so you missed it by about 8 minutes now. This Sunday we're playing No Limit Deuce to 7 single draw. By request of the winner of the first week's tournament, Anthony Charter has specifically requested No Limit Deuce to 7 single draw. So Raz is more my wheelhouse than Limit Omaha High Low for sure. I'm kind of ignoring this king back here. Nobody else can see it, so nobody else knows I have it. What I'm showing is developing is very strong. So I'm continuing to put pressure on the other hands when they're showing weak draws, to basically get them to do exactly what just happened. Fold out, give me the pot without any showdown, even though I'm probably not, in fact, better than them at that point. So it's a pretty decent turnout for this 8-game, actually. 42 people registered, which is, in my experience, a pretty big turnout for an 8-game tournament at the $2.20 level. Usually I'm expecting 30 sort of as a top end with something like this. So that puts $84 in the prize pool for us. First place is walking away with 31.08. 31.08 for first place. There's 6 places being paid out. A min cash is of $4.62. So more than double your buy-in, which is pretty decent. This is Raz, so we're really not developing any sort of hand here. We're just going to get the hell out. So, yeah, those are tough to play. Anything with only, or, yeah, something in those lines are really tough to play because you really need the ace deuce, or at least the ace or the deuce to flop on a 3, 4, 5, 8 hand to get any low value on it, really. So, yeah, it is a tough hand to play. I think I'm going to value my ace here as a visible card and kind of ignore the 2 cards back, and kind of think that we're going to be able to pressure people off with good draws. Now, we haven't made a good draw, but they've made a horrible draw, so we're going to keep putting pressure on and keep throwing money in the pot. And the draws keep going okay for us and just horrendously for Serena. So we're continuing to pressure that. Um, nice. The last two hands I've taken are nice examples where you don't actually need to necessarily have the best hand. Although I think in that last case we did have the best hand. Um, you only need to appear to have the best hand a lot of times. Um, I'd have to go back and review the exact hand you're talking about. I'm not entirely sure, and I wasn't watching the stream when you asked the question. But there are times when I will raise somebody when I'm only winning half the pot in hopes that the raise will push them off of a weak holding on the other end, i.e. if I'm playing for the top, if I've bricked my low somehow by pairing out a card or something, but I'm playing a really strong high hand that I'm pretty sure is going to win half the pot for high, I might bet strong, knowing that if he calls me, I'm gonna, or if we end up capping out, we're just gonna split it out. But I'm doing it to try to push him off the pot, to actually try to get him to fold out. If he's hit like a hand that's maybe the fifth nut low or something like that, maybe he's gonna fold it if I keep. And he doesn't have a high. Maybe he's gonna fold it if I keep forcing to put money in. Alternately, he might think he's taking the whole pot, and he might be putting money in because he thinks he's taking the whole pot, and therefore I'm actually increasing the amount of the half I get out if we keep betting. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Raz is as much about what your hand looks like as it is what your hand is actually about, because if you're playing against people who understand Raz, there's very few Raz hands that should really ever get to showdown. In fact, the most Raz hands should end on sort of fourth, fifth, sixth street at the latest, um, simply because it's obvious who's got the best hand and who doesn't have the best hand. In sort of 60 or 65% of the cases. Yeah, it'd be pretty cool to ship the 31 bucks. That's a nice prize up top for one of these. And I mean, 42 people in the tournament. That's not certainly nothing intimidating as far as a field size to get through. Um, winning there's really nothing. There wouldn't really be anything unusual winning a 42 person tournament. Alrighty, so we're into the limit stud portion of the game. I have got the ace high spade flush developing, and with the queen. So I gotta come in for a bring in here and just see what Fourth Street brings us. Fourth Street brings us a pair of aces, which is a nice looking hand. And I think looking at the rest of the board, I'm actually going to throw a double bet in on this, um, and be happy to either take it right down or be happy to bloat the pot to a certain extent. With the understanding that I've actually got developed two flush draws to the ace and a pair of aces, which is a very strong hand. So we've got two other pairs developing over here, both of which, of course, could be tripped out behind, but they don't know that I'm not tripped with my aces. So there's really no reason for me not to keep putting pressure on here, I don't think. Um, and in fact, I think, well, that could be a dangerous card on Bimatalo's hand. Certainly could have taken us out there with a straight, and also on seventh perhaps. But I still think, given the way this has gone, it's worth valuing the hand. Yeah, two pair over there. I mean, I'm not hugely surprised about that. Um, I'm sort of more surprised that he didn't play it more aggressively than he did, at least on seventh there, to get more value, frankly, because I think he would have been sort of salivating at the fact that I thought I was good with a pair of aces. Um, so interesting. We'll have to keep that in mind with him. That was a bit passive on his part, I think, with a hand as strong as he had. This is not a stun hand developing really, so we're going to get the heck out of dodge for that. So this is oh, excuse me, I just had something in my throat. This is just sort of like a sit and go, really. 42 people, pretty close to 45-man sit and go. So I think you can play a lot of the same strategies as you would employ in a 45-man sit and go type scenario to something like this. I really don't think that there's a ton of difference between MTTs and sit and goes. I think that they play very much the same if they have the same number of people in them. So if you have a 90-person sit and go and you compare that to a MTT that had 90 people register by the time registration closed, those things would play approximately the same. Now, the fact that there would be some late registration in the MTT, whereas there wouldn't be in the sit and go, all 90 would have been involved beforehand, it might make a slight difference in the way it plays. And certainly if some of those 90 in the MTT are rebuys or re-entries, then it makes a difference. For the record, we're liking our flush over here, obviously, flush to the ace, which we don't continue with, but that's okay. So yeah, I think in many ways you can look at an MTT that has something like 42 players like this one very much as an analog to the way a 45 player sit and go would play. So we backed into a pair. We're still not developing our hearts at all. We're probably check calling here one more street at least. He's still betting into us even though he sees our eights, which makes us wonder. Well, no, he's checked now, so I don't necessarily think. I think a bet might actually be value. Bet with a raise. He's raising into us, seeing our eights. That's almost always going to be a case where I can beat the hand you're showing. So if that's all you're playing, I'm going to raise you here. So I think I need to get out of dodge with a raise like that. So we're into a break. We are into a break. I am trying something new today, and we will get to that in just one short moment before I go off on the break. I think this is going to work. I hope this is going to work. We'll see if this is going to work. So I'm back again. I've I found the beauty of the YouTube audio library, so I'm going to start doing some audio clips and stuff um, in breaks instead of leaving dead air on the breaks like that. I've of course picked Beethoven's Fifth today for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's an amazing piece of music. Of course, it's quite possibly one of the greatest pieces of musical composition in human history. It's certainly one of the greatest pieces of musical composition in human history. Whether it's the best or not is obviously open to interpretation, and everybody's going to have their own opinion. But it is definitely one of the best pieces of musical composition in human history. So that's one reason that I'm using it today. The other reason, of course, I'm using it today is it is absolutely and completely free because Mr. Beethoven has no more copyright issues with it. So there is no issue with me playing it on the stream. So there are two good reasons for me to be doing that. So we're back in on the game again. I'm going to slowly turn off Mr. Beethoven and come back into our poker. So welcome back to poker. Thank you, Mr. Beethoven, for our musical interlude. We very much appreciate that. As I say, two very important reasons to use Beethoven as our musical interlude. Number one, Beethoven's Fifth is one of the greatest pieces of music composition in human history. And number two, it is currently copyright free and therefore free of any charge for us to use. Yes, I'll have some Mozart and stuff lined up later, but I'm also going to be throwing in some. I'm also going to be throwing in some jazz, and I'm going to be throwing in some contemporary music as well. I think as I find stuff. There's actually some really interesting stuff on the YouTube audio archive, and there are tons of places to find free audio clips and stuff to use. So I'll be looking around for those. I'm sure you're well above the double digits already, Hammer. I think most poker players are and have to be to be competitive. Above double digits in IQ points, that is, for people that aren't reading the chat comments that I'm responding to in voice randomly. Oh yeah, that's so much nicer. I've been going through some of my old streams this past couple of days, doing little highlight clips from them for the highlights section on my Twitch account here. And one of the things I noticed is that the dead air during breaks is like painful at times for like 4 or 5 minutes of just dead air staring at nothing but a dead poker table. So I figured I needed something going on there. The easiest thing to start with is some background music. I'm going to look for other fun things to play in there. Like I'll probably look for some YouTube clips and some. I was watching Streamy Sauce the other day, and while he was playing, he had a little webcam of puppies, a litter of puppies playing and fighting with each other and stuff down in the bottom corner of his screen, as what he called his anti-tilt. His anti-tilt device, which I thought was genius. So I might do something like that with kittens or with puppies or something that's like an anti-tilt device that we can throw on during our breaks to kind of soothe us out and get us back centered again for ready for our next bout of poker. Streamy Sauce actually does some good stuff. I've enjoyed the poker video stuff that I've watched with him quite a bit. I'm a music guy. I'm a good music guy. If it's good music, it doesn't really matter what genre it is to me. Um, you know, Beethoven, Pink Floyd, pretty much the same to me. The sort of level of musical complexity is very similar. The kinds of musical themes that they explore are very similar. They're doing it in a different century. They're doing it with different instruments, and they're doing it to well, I was going to say they're doing it to appeal to different people in different ways, but they're not even really doing it that way because Beethoven was a popular music guy in his day. I mean, he was a rock star in his day. Those guys, Beethoven, Mozart, people like that, were all rock stars in their days. Very much so, as playing in the royal courts and sort of uh, uh, being very much the talk of the talk of the established town, so to speak, which is what you needed to do back then to have a lot of um, to have a lot of impact. So, there isn't really a whole lot of difference between, Beethoven is popular music. The only difference is it's just popular music from hundreds of years ago. That's the only real difference between sort of Beethoven and rock and roll today. Um, well, I should say Beethoven and good rock and roll from modern times. That's well thought out. That's complex musically. That's got the sort of musical um, that's got some musical depth to it, right? So yeah, we'll be doing. There's really no genre. I don't think that I'm the I guess I have to say the only genre that I'm sort of um, advanced bias about is opera. For some reason, I can listen to a great piece of opera or a great tenor or whatever, and I can recognize the musical genius that's involved in the process of what they're doing, but I've never been able to find one that I can truly say that I enjoy sitting down and listening to. Um, every other genre of music that I can think of, there's at least a couple of obscure examples of stuff where I go, yeah, I'd love to sit down and listen to that, kind of thing. Along with recognizing the musical genius, of course, as well. There is absolutely plenty of jazz without copyright. That's great too. So we're gonna do a bunch of that. Probably a bunch of old blues as well. There's gonna be tons of great old blues stuff that we can throw on there. The YouTube archive, which is where I'm starting, has got a massive library in it just on its own. So uh, I'm actually not even going to have to look very hard anywhere else to find stuff to put in breaks. Just past the YouTube, but I will also look other places and see what else we have. Yeah, cats for sure. I'm a cat person as well. I've had cats for most of my life. I don't have one now, but at the moment, but I'll probably have one again at some time in my life. I know I've never been the sort of person who's gone looking for cats. I've never really gone out and sought a cat. I've never gone out and bought a cat from anywhere. I've never gone out and said I need a cat. I'm going to go look for a cat. I'm going to get a cat. What happens is cats find me. Cats that need homes find me. Cats that are having litters find ways. I find ways to get kittens out of litters that need homes. That's sort of the way I end up with cats, and I quite love that because um, it's more of a two souls meeting in the universe kind of situation than it is a go out and find a pet kind of situation. So yeah, and that's really the way it's always been. It's really the way it's always been for me. It's very rare that I ever meet a cat that there isn't some sort of a connection between the two of us at almost immediately with. There's always, I don't know, it's weird, but I've never actually met, I've rarely met cats that don't like me, and I've rarely met cats that aren't sort of instantly attracted to me. Get back to the pokers a little bit, I think. Into the no limit hold'em phase of the 8 game, which is a pretty dangerous one in my book. It's double-edged sword, of course. It's dangerous, and it's also the place where you can double up really quickly and accumulate tons of chips. So it's double-edged sword that way. We do need to do something relatively quickly. We've got a pretty small stack. We've been crippled in a couple of hands after a couple of hands here, but our blind levels are still pretty low in this situation. Though I think once we get back into the limit games, the stakes in the limit games are going to be significantly higher than this. So we are going to be in much more danger in those games than we are here as far as blinds and stakes are concerned. Um, but nonetheless, if we have an opportunity to get our chips in reasonably good here in No Limit Hold'em, with a chance to double up, I think we're doing it because it's an excellent chance to gather chips in the No Limit Hold'em phase. So, of course, the 8 game being the one time when we will play a lot of Hold'em on anything but Hold'em, because there are 2 forms of Hold'em that make up the 8 games and 8 game. There is this No Limit Hold'em phase, plus there is the Limit Hold'em phase of the horse portion. So it's actually a quarter of the 8 game is Hold'em. But that means 3/4 is anything but Hold'em. So I think it still qualifies as a game that we can play on anything but Hold'em. This is probably where we're going to see the most Hold'em, though, is when we play 8 games. Yeah, I'm sure that's probably true about opera. I mean, like I say, I can absolutely recognize the musical genius involved in a great opera composer like a Wagner or someone like that. I can recognize. Well, maybe Wagner's a bad example given all the Nazi stuff, but but beyond beyond that, I mean, I can recognize I can recognize the musicality of it for sure. It's just one that I've never educated my ear to a matter of enjoying. But yeah, I mean, jazz and blues is one of those ones that's super easy to enjoy, especially blues. I mean, blues are made. The sort of point is the blues are made to appeal to a wide variety of people and to get sort of the human toe. And when I say that, I mean the human toe in general tapping. It's got very primal. The blues are very primal rhythms and very primal beats, I think, which just encourage people to um, become part of the music, I think, and that's a key part of it. And I think there's certain kinds of progressive jazz that can be very hard to get involved with. Um, but I mean, some of the big band stuff, and certainly even listening to somebody like Dizzy Gillespie is just wonderful. It's pretty easy to enjoy. Pretty easy to enjoy that sort of thing. I'm an ex trumpet player, so You'll probably hear me talk a lot about trumpet players like Dizzy and Louis Armstrong, people like that. But yeah, go with the big hand when I get it. I think both the No Limit Hold'em and the Pot Limit Omaha are good places to gain chips if you can. Um, I just really haven't had the hand that was goable with, really. This was high low. I might go with that deuce four, but this fact that this is just straight PLO means I'm probably not going to go with a hand that's got three hearts in it like that and no pairs. And where the two straight card or where the two sets of straight cards are so disconnected, nothing that hits the Jack King is going to ever connect with the deuce four, and vice versa, except for the ace card. Really is the only one. However, I mean, obviously that flop was one that I'd want to be involved in. So what do you think, Hammer? Was that too nitty? Should I have been playing this King Jack four deuce hand? Because I mean, obviously the flop tells me I should have, but that's being results oriented. When you see a flop and you say, "Well, damn it, I should have been in that hand," right? You can't really think that way. What are the odds that I'm flopping a hand that wins pot limit Omaha with this hand? I don't know how much you know about pot limit Omaha, but when we get to it, I'll be curious to find out what your uh, what your idea is. So I fully admit pot limit Omaha is one of my probably one of my weakest games. But I mean, I'd obviously have pretty much the stone cold nuts here. I think the 10 jack of clubs obviously is the stone cold nuts, but yeah, he only had the 8-10. He didn't have the 10 jack, so I would have taken that pot down with the full house, I'm pretty sure. Again, on a high low hand, I'm shoving that like crazy. I'm just potting that like crazy. But in a high situation, I don't think that's the way to go. Yeah, agreed. Jazz is almost always worth the effort to get into it and to actually enjoy the stuff. Maybe that's where opera has its issues in the sense that there isn't really any such thing as accessible opera. Um, there's accessible jazz, right? I mean, there's obviously and Miles, yeah, Miles Davis too, of course. Miles is the god when you're an ex trumpet player, of course. Um, yeah, absolutely. There's probably the two jazz that always jump to mind for me are well, maybe three, I guess. Miles, um, John Coltrane, and Charlie Parker. Now, obviously, Coltrane and Parker are both saxophone players, not trumpet players, but those three to me are always sort of the triumvirate of great individual instrumentalists in jazz. think the thing I always love about watching, I always loved, especially when I was playing trumpet as a younger man. The thing I loved to watch about Dizzy was how he could produce such an amazing sound while literally doing absolutely everything wrong about playing the trumpet. I mean, there is nothing that that man does that's quote unquote right, as far as the sort of textbook techniques will teach you as to how you're supposed to play the trumpet. Um, his embouchure is wrong, his cheeks are wrong, the way he holds the instrument is wrong. He has to have special instruments built so that the bell is pointing out to the audience while he has his head down. His neck is in completely the wrong position. There's literally nothing about what he does that is quote unquote right about playing the instrument. But yet the sound that comes out of the instrument is still one of the most pure trumpet sounds that's ever been created by any human being that I've ever heard. And it's just remarkable that he's able to do that with such absolutely horrible technique. I mean, literally just horrible technique. I think that's one of the most remarkable things about Dizzy. Well, we've been talking about music. We've just backed ourselves into a really nice 5-card draw, or deuce to 7 hand here. So we are going to put chips into this pot, I believe. I believe that would be the appropriate way to play this pot, would be to put chips into it. Okay, well, I'm glad you agree. It was a good fold. I mean, when you see that flop, you always kind of bang your head on the table and go, "Damn!" But I didn't see the jack of clubs. I wasn't paying attention to the clubs in my hand. So, I mean, I think at this point, with my stack and with everything else, I need to put as many of my chips with this value of hand into the pot as I can. Yes, somebody can obviously draw out to a 7 or to a better 8 on me. That's certainly a possibility that I can't avoid. But I think if I'm not putting as many chips as I can into the pot with this hand and padding, I'm not getting my value out of it. Now the fact that BEM is padding doesn't really change the fact that, given the way I played it so far, I can't avoid putting my chips in. I'm either doubling up here or I'm going home, I think, is the way it's going to work. And we're padding once again, I think. So everybody padded that, which means our 8765 doesn't look nearly as strong as it did before. But nonetheless, well, I mean, I think if we can get away, not that we really want to save money on this one. The question is, do we want to save 150 chips to put in on the next hand if this goes wrong? I suppose that's like splitting the odds, right? So yeah, that's the way to do it. Instead of going all in here, it's only 150 chips, yeah, and we're gonna lose to the nuts over there. Yeah, the King 4-4 I probably should have played. I think this will be the one I put in. I'm not going to be drawing quite to the nuts, but if I draw 2 to the 6-4-3, I'm close to it. So that's, I think, maybe so I hit the 7. If we draw the 10, and we draw the 10 again, we take it. So we're still alive. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you're Miles Davis hero, that's a pretty good that's pretty good. Um, Pretty impressive endorsement of your trumpet playing skills, I think that would be. That was a tough hand. The one you're watching was a really tough hand. As it turned out, I probably made the nitty correct decision, I think, by just calling there. Once it goes pat pat, it's hard to think that my 87 is that super strong, especially not when it's at 8765. So staying in, and the fun thing is as you'll see as this hand comes up, as I'm watching now on the stream, um, the next hand I'm able to double up. So it's I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure that that's obviously being somewhat results oriented, but by calling there and giving myself to put the chance to put chips in on another hand that I've got more strength on, that I potentially got more strength on, any hand at all, actually, rather than continuing when I'm almost certain that I'm behind, I think it gave me that chance to double up. Yeah, you're right. It got the reverse bank, but that's the way it's going to go. And then we got to double up, so that was able to get us through. We're of course into the limit hold'em phase again now. Haven't really had anything I've been able to value very very highly yet here. Um, it's hard to really play your position super strongly when you have a small stack in limit hold'em. Um, because your raises don't really carry the weight that they carry in. I mean, I suppose they carry a ton of weight in no limit either. But when you're shoving like 8 big blinds um, in no limit, the odds for the other person are such that they've got to think more about whether they're going to call. Here, you can't do that. You can only raise one big blind basically, or one big bet, and that's never going to get people off necessarily, right? So. This is definitely one that we could sort of speculate with, that it's connected and suited and stuff, but I really don't think it's one that, I think we've got time to go There's a minute to go until we get into the Omaha high-low phase, and that's one of my stronger games in this rotation. So I think sort of rather than putting a bunch of cash in on a speculative situation like that, trying to wait out until we either see a much stronger hand in the limit hold'em situation, or we get over into the Omaha high-low section where I think that maybe my edge is a little bit better than it would be here. Hey, chip and a chair is all you need. Chip and a chair is all you need. This was no limit hold'em. Obviously, I'm shoving the ace-4 off almost all the time in this spot, but being that this is limit and all I can do is raise 120, which is half my stack, yeah, I mean, I guess eventually, but the dynamic of how your stack gets in a limit game is different than how your stack gets in a no limit game, and that makes the kinds of hands that will put you in quite different. I'm not explaining it very well. It makes sense in my head, but I'm not explaining it very well, I don't think, what the key difference is. But even though that's a hand that I would shove in a no limit situation, in a limit situation, it's not a hand that I'm going to raise under the gun like that. Alrighty, we're into the limit Omaha high-low section. 40-80, we absolutely need to find a spot to get our chips in the middle. I don't think this is the hand we need to get involved with. I don't think either the three clubs, the grades are clubs. We do have Broadway and we do have the 7-6, but they're not very connected straight draws. We would hit top pair and our clubs, again being results oriented. So we don't know if we would have hit our clubs in the end or not, but we certainly had the top pair there. I still don't think it's necessarily one that I would have got involved with. Now this one, on the other hand, is worth seeing a flop with. There's going to be no low, but we have got the nut spade draw, so we are piling chips into this pot like crazy at this point, I think. And we're either doubling our chip stack or we're going home. Ooh, that's a tough one, and we're going home, it looks like. Despite the fact, another case where we're going home on a full house, ladies and gentlemen. We rivered fours full of queens, while he already had kings full of queens. So that is two tournaments today that we have gone home from on full house over full house. Or rather, full house under full house, I guess, in the case of us being the ones going out. So, I suppose that's a wrap for the day. Don't think I'm going to look for another one. I've been going for an hour and a half here now, so I think that's probably long enough for today. It's great to have you around again, Hammer. Good to have a few people listening. If you haven't clicked the follow button, if you're listening today and you haven't clicked the follow button, please click the little heart icon below the channel stream and follow us here. I like to say that this machine runs on your follow love, and every time you click that little heart button, it's like putting another quarter in the arcade machine that is anything but HoldEm. So please click and put in those quarters. They don't actually cost you a quarter, but they do feed the beast. So feed the beast if you like the beast, feed the beast. Thank you very much for hanging out with us this afternoon. Not sure exactly when I'll be back. I'm always back on Sundays. I'm going to play the weekly round 2 every week that I have tickets, which will be at noon Mountain Time on Sundays. There is always going to be the weekly challenge on Sunday afternoons at 1500 Mountain Time, 3 p.m. Mountain Time. This coming week, it is no limit, deuce to 7, single draw by request of a winner of our initial first tournament, Anthony Charter. So we'll have some fun with no limit, deuce to 7, triple draw this weekend. Just watching the rest of the stream as it plays out. I'm gonna be it's gonna be hitting the point here pretty soon. But yes, thank you very much for hanging out. We will hopefully be back soon, probably again tomorrow. I've been adding highlights to the I've been adding highlights to the highlight section, so you can go and check some of those out if you haven't watched all the broadcasts. You can see some of the funny comments I've made and listen to some of the observations that I've made if you like. I've been doing those. So hope you have a good afternoon or evening or whatever it is where you are, and we will talk to you soon. Later.